there is a part of the feminine that is that I think has been confused in society as a feminist movement. And I'm so happy that I don't hear that in this community. Like when I was hearing, you know, Kate the other day, and then you, Ines, and Laura, and many, you know, I've heard it through Patricia, obviously, many times. But there is like a representation, or like a being the holder of the feminine, that is way more powerful than I've ever seen, because I've seen many women and even worked with them in leadership, right? But there is always kind of like this like toughness that I thought, well, they just look like another one of these abusive kind of energies, right? But I think, you know, and then, you know, I'm just a student of it myself, but I think there is a huge amount of, you know, power that is being held by women, particularly, right? Because we're not talking about men and women, we're really talking about the feminine in this case. But you guys hold a lot more feminine than men as a whole, I think. But anyway, there is a part of that feminine power that is, I think, what the earth is naturally calling for. It's almost like a, when you hear the nature, as you guys are saying, it's like, wow, you know, like a mountain that is just so powerful that I'll stay here until everybody's quiet. I don't have any rush, right? Um, but I'm personally very interested in it's almost like somehow that calls my purpose forward as well, like that feminine, like energy, you know.
And going back to what I was going to say that I remembered, but also it relates to this energy we're feeling, no, the feminine. I think it's what I'm feeling now. It's more strength and more willingness and more trust and more assurance about the positive impact movement and the power of being of each of us, no? And hence the importance of the 7 roots of potential, also to reinforce our power of being. I think now it's the time to really strengthen that part, because what will come in the future, we don't know. And also to avoid going back into the normal of before, because the normal before cannot exist anymore. Corporations cannot think we're going to go back the same way, no, accepting the same things. And we just have to be able to talk from the inside out, and what we feel and what we're doing. And this is by example of by doing, no.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel, I think it's maybe it's that, it's the feminine, it's the Mother Earth, it's this nature in us that it's pulling us to that.
Sure. I think that it's a practice, obviously. I mean, you know, the practice of helping the mind understand that is in the service of the body. And, you know, when I speak of the root, the body as teacher and the mind as student, I'm speaking of the body, including Mother Earth. The body is not just the physical, but the body that we are inhabiting, right? And so people can take it as far as they can or desire, right? It's not important how, but it's up to each person. But you know, also this week, and I had the realization or the confirmation that, and it was actually through our call with, not with Kate, it was, oh, with our Wednesday call, I think, where I think, I don't remember who it was, but somebody said, well, there is thousands of ways or 1,000 ways to grow yourself or to develop yourself, right? And I said, and the 7 roots is another way, right? Is one of those thousands of ways. And my response, kind of instinctively in the moment, was, no, I don't think so. And the reason is that the 7 roots is your way. It's not part of the thousands of ways. It's yours. So I've thought for many years, how could we enter ourselves with a sense of what we're talking about, with a sense of kindness, respect, humility, attention, you know, so that we don't step into our own being assuming that we know, right? And yeah, of course, there is thousands of techniques of how to manage different things. I agree. But even within spiritual tradition, you know, whether we go into Buddhist practice or Hindu practice or, you know, Sufi practice or any spiritual form, right, of ancient tradition through them, there seems to be a, well, we're, you know, some sort of structure, like a scripture, that then allows people to deepen their self-awareness and their capacity to enter their being. But for these years, I've thought, well, somehow we're all going to get to the point where we have to make our own journey. It's no longer about anything external. It's about our own guidance, you know, as, you know, our own soul guidance. And the 7 roots is a pathway through which you actually declare that you are your best teacher. And of course, then you need to deal with your level of practice, right? What is your level of practice? And if you don't have a whole lot of practice, you know, then you have to use whatever you need to in order to keep you focused and stable. But as you go deeper into your capacity for being, right? You, like an athlete or an artist, is no longer about technique. It's no longer about how. It's about who. And so the 7 roots allows people to enter their being wherever they are, but now having the sense that they are responsible for themselves. The powerful thing about this is that because for so many years I've been almost also wondering the same question I think many of us have been asking is like, well, how do I enter the world? What would be the right way to enter the world instead of falling asleep to that question?
I think these days what brings us also, what's reinforced is this, the uniqueness, no? When you look inside, it's because you're finding your uniqueness. And your uniqueness does separate you from everybody else. And that's what leads to our freedom. The freedom
The
to
uniqueness?
be, the uniqueness,
mm-hmm.
no? Because you cannot be put together with anybody else because you're unique. And if you are unique, it's because you have your power of being is there, no, latent,
Right.
And that's what well, the 7 roots of potential reinforce us to get this uniqueness, to identify ourselves, to know who we are, and then also create through that.
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of courage to allow others to observe you. It takes huge amounts of courage because it's very intimate. You know, it's like what we're doing here is extremely delicate, not in its energetic frequency. That's not delicate at all. It's quite robust. But I'm thinking about in terms of the permission that people are giving for being here. That cannot be taken for granted. So everybody, I think, if we grow this from the core, it's an incredible gift to the world. Because we each go wherever we go, right? It's like Ines has her own community. Patricia, you share with many people. You, Jeannette, as well. Myself, you know. But if we take this as it's a practice, what we're doing here. If we grow it, then it's like ripples, you know, and we don't know what can happen. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious. Yeah. So.
It's your own positive impact, and that's why it's we're called like that. It's your positive impact. It's what you are giving to the world through who you are and what you're creating. And each of one has their unique way to do that.
You know what I'm thinking? That these interviews for the projects, right? I want them to be recurrent. So. It's almost like I want to see Ines again to see what has happened to you, like in a couple months or, you know, so once it's almost like the spiritual practice of, oh, we are birthing ourselves again, like what has happened, right? And I look forward to that, like revisiting. It's like that spiral that we speak about. It's like it's a spiral that is also in the community. And I can't wait, right, to hear what people are doing and what are they, like that voice. How are you entering your own voice, and what are you sensing within you? It's beautiful in that sense because it's a teaching for all of us. I don't think we've seen that before in the collective. You know, like a constant spiral of. You know, so I think, Jeannette, you spoke about it a few months ago when you said, well, we're just something about revisiting. Comes up for me is that my vision for the community has been that the 7 roots are taught by the community itself, because the guru model is not really what we're looking for. So the guru is the community. Right blueprint shows up through the 7 roots that is really a global movement, you know, driven by the people themselves. And that is unique. That is very unique, like something that we've never seen in our humanity.
We were saying I was saying the spiraling quest of positive impact, that it's generated by each of us individually and together as a community, because we are evolving together into what it has to become, no? And with each of us, as we grow and as we evolve and as we co-create, something is forming, but it won't be like yesterday. It's always going to be today, which is going to be different.
The kind of vision that I hold is obviously hard to understand because, as I share with you guys, well, what if the community became its own teacher? So it's not only you becoming your own teacher, but it's the community becomes the teacher to the community. And then it keeps spiraling into that kind of a movement, each holding our own responsibility. In other words, it's not like, I mean, we have to be responsible enough to know what is our practice. You cannot fake that. And so one of the thoughts is, well, if there is so much economic struggle in our world because we've become dependent on a big machine that is really dependent on addiction. So if you're not addicted, it's not good. The machine doesn't like it, right? So the community itself can be a source of financial well-being because neither Jeannette nor I have any intentions of, like rich through the becoming enriched through the community. I mean, that's not the point of the community. And so as long as people have enough, we're very happy. So, we've spoken about like people creating their own communities and their own economies and their own kind of sustainable environments. Well, that's also my vision. It's like, how could this be like a source of plenty for everybody? And I don't know that I'll get to see it in my lifetime, but I want you guys to know that that's really exciting. For me, if we could create something like that, it might take some time. It's not something that happens so quickly, but I've always believed in miracles.